Alright, I'm back. It's been a very busy couple weeks. I haven't had a chance to work on this as much as I wanted to. Finishing up projects around the yard and finishing up our new deck we just got built. Had to do some last minute wiring and stuff, inspections and everything else. Now it's coming to a close, so I finally have time to work on this. It's in my shed right here. That way I can just roll it out and sand it and paint it as I need to. I have not done any work on this. I don't think I'm going to film myself doing work on it. I'll just kind of work on it and then come back and show you what I did. I think it's probably the easier way to do things. But just wanted to check in real quick with this, as well as show you some of the results of our painting, which went pretty good. And when you see me again, hopefully I'll have this will lose some weight, so to speak. It'll be a lot thinner. Alright, so thanks for checking in, and we'll see. Alright, so our painted pieces are done. They've been drying for at least a week, and that's what's recommended with this appliance epoxy. Coin door came out okay. The lighting over here isn't great, so it's kind of hard to see. I taped off the original midway badge plate. I'm tired. I can't get my words. I taped this off, the midway insignia. So just because I wanted to keep the original one, it's not in great shape. I know they make repros, but I don't know. I kind of wanted to keep this one. If I become unhappy with it, I could always just drill out those rivets and get a reproduction. I don't have to worry about that right now. Here's my control panel, coin door surround, speaker grill, the bezel retainer, and the marquee brackets. Overall, everything came out pretty good. Not perfect. I really am not going for perfect anyway. I can never seem to achieve perfect. So, but it looks a heck of a lot better than it did. A lot better than that stupid spatter paint. And there goes my dehumidifier down here. So, at any rate, we're pretty much ready. With the metal pieces anyway, we got our CPO and decal from this old game, so we're going to be putting that on soon. And I know it's really dark, I'm sorry, but started some of the board work on the power supply, replaced some headers, some diodes. I was calling those things resistors. They're diodes, duh. And I'll be recapping it and just pretty much rebuilding the whole board. So that's it for now. When you see us again, we'll start work on the cabinet itself. Okay, we're back, and it is time to work on the cabinet. To start off, I had a bunch of videos of me stripping the control panel, all the other metal parts. I don't know if I got to show you. I took this out. Pretty sure you saw that. But this is over here going to get connector redone and cleaned up a little bit, and the fuses replaced, and the fuse blocks replaced, and yada yada. But I had a whole bunch of stuff about stripping the metal parts, painting the metal parts. And I don't know what the hell happened to the video because it's gone. I don't know if I deleted it by accident. So a good 20 minutes of video, poof. So you're just going to have to trust me that I stripped everything and painted everything. And obviously you'll get to see that once I put that stuff back on the cabinet. But, so we are now at the next step of working on the cabinet. First thing I'm going to do is I have the bottom here. I just, vinyl's removed on both sides. I'm kind of crammed into my shed here, my old 12x12 shed. So I'm going to do some light sanding on the bottom here. You can see where it got a little wetter on the bottom. I'm going to sand that off a little bit. Then I'll do a little bit of wood hardener, let that wood hardener harden up. And I'll sand it again, try to get this a little more square. We'll try to repair some of this stuff, rounded corners and things of that nature. This is swollen all down here. It's pretty strong. It's not looking to flake away, obviously, but we'll do something about that. And then down here in this corner where there used to be a leg leveler, we're going to get rid of these leg levelers too. We're going to I put all my stuff on casters. Even with the little stuff, it seems to serve me well, moving things around the basement, and especially moving things around when I'm working on them. But we are going to repair that with Bondo glass. I've had good luck with that, even screwing leg levelers into that or wheels into it later on. It seems to do a pretty good job. It seems to hold up. It doesn't just chip out and flake out like Bondo would. So, at any rate, I'm going to do that off camera. I'm not going to sit here and watch, or have you watch me sand for 10, 15 minutes. We'll do that, and we'll come back, and we'll get some wood hardener going on this. All right, we're back. We have our Bondo in effect. I'm using Bondo glass, fiberglass mixed with Bondo, obviously. It's better for like bigger repairs, such as these two corners down here. Give you a closer look. These two corners down here, you can see there's a little indentation where we filled in a hole. We're going to let this Bondo dry, level it, and then we're going to fill in the indentation. Now, I'm not going to make these indentations perfect, number one, because they're on the bottom of the cabinet. And number two, what we're going to do for a little bit more structural strength, is what I've done before, is I'm going to take a piece of 1x, about that wide, 1 inch by maybe ½ inch lumber, like molding. See if I can find that size, or just rip a larger piece down. And we're going to nail it along this back edge of the cabinet, and we're going to mount our wheels, small wheels, obviously. We're going to mount our wheels to that. That just distributes the weight a little bit better on the back of the cabinet. We're going to do the same thing up here. I was unsuccessful getting these leg levelers off. They're pretty rusted in there, so I just get a mini Sawzall with a long blade. I can cut them, and then I can use a pair of vice grips to twist them the rest of the way out. So that's not a big deal. We did a little bit of work on the bottom corners. Like I said before, I'm sure I've mentioned this, and why I stopped calling this a restore and I'm calling this a refresh. I'm not going to make this like it came out of the factory. Some guys can. I don't have that skill level or that amount of patience to do that. So obviously we're just going to make it nicer instead of, looking like it just came out of a box. But it's going to look a lot nicer. We know that. So with that said, I'm not going to get all these corners super perfect. It's not going to happen for me. We will try to build it up a little bit so when we route it, the router bit has something to follow and we don't get all kind of wacky stuff going on. I'm going to do the best I can. Again, too, this is the bottom. I mean, if the bottom's not perfect, not the end of the world. Bondo glass here, it's still drying. I get a little sloppy with the Bondo. So that's still working out. Here, we'll try to build this up maybe a little bit, just again for the purposes of the router bit, just so it's not going all over the place to get that corner. Again, I'm not super worried about that, even if the router skips around. 1 or 2 games, I know sometimes people think it's a sin. I put corner protectors on only because even downstairs in my basement, my arcade, things get knocked around a little bit, and Bondo corners sometimes aren't the most sturdy corners, and I don't have the equipment nor do I want to spend the money to start cutting it off and making a new corner and biscuiting it, getting a biscuit joiner and joining it. So if corner protectors go on later on, so be it. You could call it what you will. So we did that, and we're waiting for this stuff to dry. We're going to wait for that stuff to dry, level it off. I got the bottom where it's kind of chewed up on the other side on the bottom. Kind of laid on my back and tried to Bondo that the best I could. Probably not very good. Over here we started sanding a little bit. This corner wasn't so bad. You can see it's a little rounded off here. I didn't do that. That was already like that. The other corner that's right now on the bottom, I started sanding a little bit. That was the area of the cabinet. There's about a good 4 inches of it. Should probably put you in the frame. Good 4 inches of it that was really swollen. I think we said from 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inches. So I started sanding that a little bit. It's just very awkward to sand from the bottom up. So instead of screwing it up and taking off too much or making things unlevel, I'm going to wait till we flip the cabinet over. It's much easier to work from the top here, and if I have to go underneath, I can sit on the floor and look under as I'm doing this. And so far, so good. For underneath where my fingers are, the little sides of the cabinet, the little wings next to the kick panel, I'm probably just going to hand sand that. Those really aren't swollen. They just have that stupid spatter paint on it, and I want to get that spatter paint off. But I'm probably just going to hand sand that with a sanding block, or just my fingers and a piece of 80 grit or 125 or 150 grit, whatever does the job. just to get the paint off. That's not really all that swollen. The whole cabinet is a little bit swollen, but again, I'm not gonna pull my hair out and try to get it super perfect. As long as really, honestly, as long as I get that corner looking a lot better, and I get the spatter paint off, I'll be happy. That's pretty much all I'm really looking for doing this, and obviously putting the laminate on the sides. That goes without saying. So that's where we are right now. I don't know how much more I'll get done today. I got some stuff going on, so we'll be back when we have more done. Oh, and wood hardener. A word about wood hardener. I keep my wood hardener in a little spray bottle. That guy, Arcade Body Shop, who I don't know what happened to him. He was making videos and then he kind of disappeared. He was saying you should put it in a spray bottle and spritz it. Works very well. I did that obviously down here on that corner. I did some on that whole actually bottom edge. It kind of needed it, and I did some on around the back. And before I did the Bondo, like I mentioned, where the leg levelers were, I made sure I sprayed some wood hardener in there to harden up the existing wood, and it just kind of makes anything that's a little flaky, just makes it nice and strong. Actually, it makes it very strong. Use enough of this stuff, and it actually becomes a little hard to sand. So. I put it in a spray bottle. The only thing you got to watch out is after like a week in the spray bottle, this stuff is like super glue in liquid form, more or less. It just clogs up the entire spray bottle. So if you're going to put it in the spray bottle, I get these cheapy 8 spray bottles for $8 on Amazon. That way when I have to transfer it to another spray bottle and I throw this one out, it's not the end of the world. I also write wood hardener on it, poison. Nobody drinks it, I guess. I don't know. So nobody thinks it's like glass cleaner or whatever. But I did some wood hardener and wait for that to dry and then sanded it. So for this little segment, I think we're good. We'll be back when it's time to do more. All right, so real quick, what I'm doing here. I originally was going to leave the T-molding on when I sanded this so I can get the proper thickness, because the cabinet should be just as thick as the T-molding. Somebody told me, that's probably not a good idea. You shouldn't do that. You're going to want to use some wood hardener in there for these soft spots and everything, and they were right. So I wound up stripping the T-molding off. What I'm doing, though, as a gauge, instead of getting a pair of calipers, is I am using a piece of the old T-molding. I cut a piece of T-molding, and I'm kind of using this as my gauge as I'm sanding. The reason that I don't want to use calipers is because calipers will tell you if it's 3/4 of an inch. But I want to make sure I don't take too much off either side. Our T-molding channel is in the middle, obviously, and in order for this T-molding to fit properly, we want to keep it in the middle. And if we take too much off one side and not enough off the other, it'll be 3/4 of an inch, but then we'll have T-molding overhanging here and a big gap over here, if you catch my drift. I cut myself up putting in some sprinklers yesterday, so pardon me. But anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm sanding, and I put a little piece of T-molding here. I've already done wood hardener. I've already hardened some stuff up. This little corner here is probably going to need a little bit of regular Bondo work just to clean it up a little bit. I'll put a little more wood hardener in there. It is still a tiny bit soft. But I've gotten it much better than it was. If you'll remember how horribly swollen it was when we started. Let me stick our T-molding in there. Now from the side profile, you can see our top, it's a little chipped out, but our top is pretty much right there where it should be. If I can show you that. Kind of an odd angle, you're going to have to trust me. Our bottom, though, we still need some sanding on the bottom. I've been hand sanding the top a lot just because a lot of stuff to bump into and shredding up my sanding pads. So I've been using a hand sander, which actually hasn't been so bad. But the bottom, you see, we're going to have to take some material off before this works out the way we want it to. But I think I'm gonna save that for when I flip the cabinet over. That way I'm not trying to sand underhand like this. And also I can't really get a good area with my milk box here. So I'll be back. Okay, moving right along. I figure I'd just pop in, show you where we are so far. I had to do a lot of Bondo work, or maybe not a lot, but a decent amount of Bondo work to this corner right here. This was the really blown out, really swollen corner, and as I sanded, I started to see that I was sanding off the structurally sound parts, excuse me, and getting into more less structurally sound, softer wood. So I had to fix that up with some Bondo, if you could see right there. Bad angles, the light's not great in the shed. And we got that, you know, fairly even. Let me back out a little bit, see if you can see. Hopefully this is coming out. On the tip here, on this corner too, we had to, that's better. On the tip here, as you can see, we had to go around and we had to round that out. We were missing some wood, so we did that. And then, it's maybe a better angle here. That looks better. And you can see there where we filled in with some Bondo. It's a little chipped, like I said. I mean, I'm not going for perfection, you know. I just want to give that router bit a nice smooth edge to follow. And the face of this is nice and smooth. I know it's hard to tell from the camera, but it is. So, with that said, we have the front of our cabinet is all taped and masked off. Because when we sanded it, I didn't want to damage the laminate that I'm keeping. Well, not the laminate, the vinyl I'm keeping on the front. Yes, I'm keeping the front vinyl. I could always change it later, I guess, right? Maybe. Probably not. And I sanded the inside, right? And I'm also going to be painting that inside and painting that little toe kick. I still have to sand the inside of this side and the outside of this side. So this side is done. This side is now... As I get my little test piece of T-molding here. This side is good, you know. You can see it's not perfect. Obviously, there's a little bit of you know, extra right there. But I'm not really going, you know, for perfection, like I said. It is a lot skinnier than it was. This cabinet lost a lot of weight, you can see. Again, right here. You know, I mean, these parts were like out probably about another 1/16 of an inch before I got to them. I did do some good work on this corner here. I'm not pushing the T-molding all the way in too, so it looks like there's more on the sides than there was. But if you remember this side here, I mean, this was fat. We got rid of a lot of that, and now we have it almost perfect at 3/4. So a lot better than it was, and I'm pretty happy with that. So just checking in, and I'm going to sand the rest of this today, and then we're going to put on we're going to paint the inside. We're going to paint along the inside here. So as for that, I get my coffee. For the coin door, I think I showed you in the video before how it was, I used that appliance epoxy on it. I'm pretty happy with the appliance epoxy on the control panel, the marquee brackets, and the speaker. I wasn't real happy with the way it looked on the coin door because the coin door is less than perfect. And it really, the way it turned out for me anyway, is any little imperfections you had, they really showed up. So I went with the tried and true hammered finish. So I went over the epoxy with hammered finish. Came up pretty good. And then what I'll do is, since this isn't really a true black, so to speak, I'll go over it with some of the same paint that I'm going to paint the cabinet with, which is a semi-gloss. I know some guys like satin. I kind of like semi-gloss. I think it looks a little bit better. And you know what? Listen, if it turns out crappy, I can always strip it and repaint it again, right? Paint's cheap. And it's really quick to strip. But so far, it came out pretty good. Looks good. Also, I wound up not being able to save that that Midway badge, as you can see. It just, you know, for 20 bucks shipped, you can get replacement badges at arcadebadges.com. So I just ordered a new badge. I figured, what the hell, if I'm going to go through all this trouble, I might as well put a new badge on the coin door, right? So that's it for now. When we come back, I'm going to have that cabinet painted. What I'd like to do is, if I have the time and the energy, I'd like to try to get this thing laminated too this weekend. So we'll see. That's going to be that'll be the nerve-wracking part in my eyes anyway. So anyway, that's enough of me blabbing. When we come back, we'll have a painted and sanded cabinet. Okay, and we're back. Laminate mission accomplished. The one thing I didn't realize was how the laminate would show some of the imperfections. I got a little raised spot here for some where it swelled around some nails that I didn't knock down. You can kind of see it. I got some schmutz here. That'll wipe off later. That's just schmutz. But overall, it was pretty easy. I got to tell you, a little nerve-wracking, but pretty easy. It is true, and it goes without saying, that wherever your bottom edges aren't even, you can see it's skipped around here or it's chewed up. Again, I'm not too worried about that. It's fine. But around this back corner here where it's really chewed up, that's something probably could have done better with, but I didn't. I always stick a corner protector or something back there just to hide it. Whatever. But on the spots where it was nice and flat, you could see it followed a nice edge. Around here, a couple spots that when I was going around the corners, I wasn't really flush with it, so I had to kind of start up the router and go back and trim it off. Like over here, I could probably do a little bit better. Yeah. But overall, if you look, it came out really nice. I was really quite pleased. And the corner, I mean, this isn't a bad one, but the corner I was really worried about was over here. And like this corner here, because that's right in your view when you're playing, that came out good. So I'm pretty happy. I'm not gonna go into. No, I don't need that, honey. Helper. I'm not gonna go into how to do this exactly, being that John's Arcade has his jump bug video where he laminates his cabinet, and I watched that and I took a couple pointers. But yeah. Now if the sun's behind a cloud, you can probably see it a little bit better. I'm pretty pleased with it. Is it an exact match for that front? No, it's not. But when you're really going to be looking at the front and the side at kind of the same time, probably not a whole lot. You could see from this angle, you could definitely see some of the imperfections. I don't know if that's because it was swollen in places, or if because I kind of lost control of my dowels. I should have gone from inside out. I kind of went from bottom to top, which was a mistake, I'm guessing. But when you look at it kind of side on, how it's going to be, you really you're not going to see much of it. Yeah. And again, looking at it just from the side like this, when it's standing, you're really not going to see too much of any imperfections. So, not to mention it's going to have games on either side of it. So, overall, I'm pretty pleased with my first round of laminating. We're going to wait for this to dry. I think we're done with this for today. Thank you. We're done with this for today, and then I think we'll come back out tomorrow and we'll do the other side. And once the other side is done, we can give it another quick vacuum and wipe down, and then we can bring it inside and start wiring it back up and putting it back together. Okay, fast forward to the end of the day, and our cabinet is done. Here's one side. And the other side. Pretty good, huh? This is going to be its natural environment, so it looks pretty good in here. So, he's good. That means now we can start working on all the wiring. Also, as far as the power brick goes, I cleaned it off. I blew it off with some air, so we have this in here now. We can start replacing those fuse blocks. We could replace that burnt up connector here. I want to place it in the bottom of the cabinet and make sure that if I cut all this stuff off, I'm going to have enough slack to get it to where it needs to be to the power supply. It wasn't actually that bad as far as being dirty. I cut the AC line cord off. We're going to put another line cord on. I just left the stub right there connected to the line filter. So I kind of know what goes where. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Pretty happy. Not perfect, like I said before, but definitely a lot better than it was. A lot better than it was. So, off camera, I am going to... I don't know what I'm going to do off camera. You know, I'm kind of excited. I think off camera, I am going to reinstall the marquee and the marquee brackets and the light panel and put some new bulbs in it because I'm kind of interested to see how it looks. The other thing I was thinking of too is, even though it's not a huge deal, is this this vertical laminate. This adds, I don't know, like a 32nd, a 64th of an inch to the side here. And like I said, we didn't do this perfect. We didn't sand it down, so it is exactly 3/4 of an inch. So we're going to get that little edge of laminate showing ever so slightly beside the T-molding, which I'm not too worried about, you know. I guess we could always, I don't know, I'm sure we could think of something to jury-rig it. But yeah, you know, I'm thinking if I had, or if I could find, which I can't find, like 13/16 leather T-molding, I could always get a T-molding trimmer and I could trim it and it would be perfect. But they don't make that. They only make plain, and I don't like the plain. I want the leather stuff that came on here. So anyway, small quibble, right? So I will come back to you. That's going to do it for I think this episode. You know, we'll start doing the putting back together as a separate episode. What do you think? And we got to get this back together, and I had to get this out of the shed today because my next project was picked up by Beltman yesterday, Friday afternoon, and should be getting here sometime this coming week or at the latest very early next week. 2 projects. Actually, one's not really that much of a project. One I'm just going to touch up a little bit. The other one's going to be a project because it doesn't work and it needs a little bit of woodwork. So, anyway, that's all for now. When you see this guy, he's going to be a little bit more together. Thanks for watching.